Welcome to the
Welcome back to the Logistics Lowdown, the show where we decode shipping, logistics, and customer experience. Today's episode is all about peak season, which for a lot of our, especially e-commerce merchants, is that time of year that's a make or break window between Black Friday and Christmas. Although we're seeing that window really coming back a little bit based off of the recent years. And for a lot of them, this is the difference where they can use shipping as a revenue stream, or it could really be the thing that tarnishes their reputations with their customers. Today, I'm joined by former podcast host and current channel partner director, Nick Palmer. Nick, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you joining my show today.
It's not your show, but we do
Debatable.
appreciate you as a guest on our show. So before we get into some of the questions that we have today, I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
First one, Christmas season's coming. The holiday seasons are almost here. Who does the shopping in your house?
I mean, I think you're well aware of my wife at this point. However, that being said, my wife does the bulk of the holiday shopping.
Okay. And is that all online or is that in-store, online?
I'd say it's 90+% online.
Okay. I do believe that the Amazon driver lets your dog out during the day is what I've seen.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You guys are that close?
No, yeah, that's her second husband.
Fair enough. So that kind of brings to the next question. Maybe it's already answered is when does that holiday shopping start or does it just never stop?
So I think it's different for person to person. So for my wife, it's all year long.
Yeah.
She is continuously searching, cataloging, returning things, bringing new things in. For me, I am the last minute shoppers for every holiday.
Now, because of that, are you typically an online shopper getting close to the holidays, or does that mean you have to huff it through the stores as you're getting closer to the day itself?
For me, it's most often online.
Okay. So as you get closer and closer to that holiday window, you're probably checking which stores are going to allow you to get those orders prior to Christmas Eve, or are you guys traveling typically on Christmas before you would have to travel, so you'd have to get those things before you'd leave?
Yeah, so for us, we do travel. We travel Christmas. We go back up north to be with family. So it's kind of two-part, right? Once I've made the decision to purchase something, I prioritize reliability. So that could be the specific brand, that could be the time in transit, that could be the product itself. But then I have to make a decision. In the interest of time, do I have enough time for it to get to New Jersey before I get there? And or do I have to do an express shipment to my house to be able to be there before I leave?
Gotcha. Now, kind of the flip side of that, when we're talking about gifts for other people, right? It's probably the biggest opportunity for you to get the wrong size, wrong color. They already have it. Somebody else got it for them because it was on their list and maybe they didn't mark it off. How important is it for you to know what a returns policy might be for the merchants that you're shopping from, especially when we're talking about those e-commerce, you might not be able to walk into the store?
Super important. Because for me, I'd say if I had a niche area where my gift giving comes in is I like the more unique gifts.
Sure.
Right? So it could be something technology related. It could be something, food and beverage related. So for me, the return policies differ pretty drastically from commodity to commodity. So for me, I always make sure I understand to make sure in the event that it's something that they don't like or it came damaged or if it no longer is needed as a gift, that I understand that I can return it and when I can return it.
Yeah, and I think that's a big differentiator too, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people have return policies for lost, damaged, maybe stolen goods, whatever it may be. But it's a different return policy if you got your item, it was just the wrong size, the wrong color, it was customized, something was spelled wrong, something of that nature. So you're looking through all those. Are you typically looking at reviews for those websites too? Like it we can't walk into the store anymore for a lot of these, especially customizable options that you're talking about. So looking at those reviews, you're reading to see what's happened to customers when something's going wrong?
See, for me, I lean on reviews more for like product quality.
Okay.
So kind of twofold. One, if I've never bought the product before, I want to understand both from the merchant and the product level, what are people saying about the product, right? Yes. I want to have the confidence in buying that product before I buy it. But for me, I also take into account the the reliability factor of that,
Sure.
right? And for me, that comes much more with what I know of the brand than the review itself. So for instance, short time frame, got to buy something. I will venture to go somewhere where I've had success before.
Yeah.
And push for speed through that vehicle, even if it's a little bit more expensive.
So you bring up an even more interesting part of the topic, which is if you've bought something before and the experience has been good for you, whether that was the shipping experience, the product itself, probably all of those things, you're more likely to return to purchase something from that business for someone else, especially around the holiday season.
100%. And even if I've had a negative experience, but they've handled it the right way,
yeah,
I will always go back to that merchant first.
I feel like that's when most reviews actually hit, right?
Yeah.
If something comes to your door, everything's fine, the product works the way that you thought it would really be kind of like a 3-star review, right?
Yep.
I don't really have time to write 3-star reviews to say it was average, but I do feel like 1 and 5-star reviews typically come from the same action point, which is something went wrong.
100%.
Okay. So what makes peak season so risky for merchants and so concerning for the end consumer?
I think it's the increase in volume ultimately. But there is also a narrative out there that because it's complex and because there's higher volumes that there is inherent risk. And there is, right? But I think that's a narrative that was created over time. Now for us, this is kind of like game day for UPS. We prepare all year for this time of the year. So I think a lot of it is just the uncertainty. There's heightened pressure on getting your goods on time. Sure. There's heightened pressure on being able to have inventory in stock if you're a merchant, being able to deliver the same experience to your customers that you have all year when it gets to crunch time.
Yeah. Do you think it makes a difference as far as like that risk for the consumer or even the merchant themselves, whether or not the products that they sell are typically having their peak during peak season? Maybe you sell surfboards, and it's not necessarily something that a lot of people, at least in the Northeast, are buying for Christmas, so that's not their peak season for that business. Is there still inherent risk during that time if I'm to buy something from one of those stops?
Yeah, I mean, I think personally there is, because I think, you need to prepare for peak regardless of the seasonality of your product, right? Because, and I'll speak for myself on this one, a lot of times I don't even think to buy things, even if it's for a different season, until it's gift giving time.
Sure,
right?
That makes a lot of sense.
So, and I think ultimately, that's where as a business, you can do yourself the biggest favor by looking into years past and understanding what inventory you need to have, and being able to communicate all the inherent risk clearly to your customer base ahead of time.
Sure. I know one of the things that we talked about before was like making sure that you're checking the timing of things as you get closer and closer to the holiday season. You forgot to get this one gift, or for this one person, you might have found out somebody got a gift for you that you didn't expect. So now you got an exchange coming up. Why do you think longer delivery windows is more concerning to consumers than the shipping cost itself as we get into peak?
I think they just want the peace of mind because, and speaking from personal experience, when I kind of factor in time in transit during the holidays, I factor in the build time in transit and the what if time in transit.
Sure.
Right? So building in a buffer. I think delivery windows give people peace in mind, but what I will say is, one thing that I think is an added benefit that people should probably pay more attention to is the communicated time in transit changes or cutoffs at the holiday times.
Okay.
That's something that we're used to seeing quite often at UPS, right? Because we plan for that internally. But I don't know that there's as much awareness in that in the market itself.
Sure.
Because being able to have that information ahead of time not only lets you plan as a business, but lets you communicate that to your customers.
Sure. And with that being said, I'm sure you're looking at this at like banners on top of websites. Last day to order in order to get it by Christmas is this day. I'm sure a lot of these businesses are building in some buffer time there because they don't want to have to deal with the CX on the back end.
100%.
I'm sure you're looking at those things and counting down the days. I know I am.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Why do you believe shipping protection hasn't caught on more as it comes down to the consumer being able to select it in the checkout process?
I think it's about the understanding of the risk, right? Everybody knows there's risk. Everybody knows there's going to be delays. And I think Chris Rock, a longtime comedian, he used to have a bit, right, where he would say, why do they call it insurance? Why don't they call it in case stuff?
Yeah.
Right? Well, because it frames it differently, right? Insurance and protection programs overall, you don't really build the value until you have the negative experience,
Sure.
right? So when I'm looking to check out and buy a product, right, and I see that as an election, if I've never experienced the pain, am I really that equipped to make a decision?
Sure.
Maybe not,
Yeah.
right? Unless you understand the risk that comes along with that. So I think for us, being able to communicate, what to know if and when something happens, helps build that trust ahead of time, and makes insurance and protection programs a lot more value add.
Sure. Kind of like your kids touching the hot stove.
Yeah.
You hope they learn from the other one touching it, but sometimes they just got to do it themselves.
Yeah.
But like we all know what that risk is out there.
100%. Sometimes you need to burn the hand.
Yeah, unfortunately. So with adding shipping protection onto the checkout cart and giving consumers the option to select it and pay for it, how do merchants frame that up as a benefit more than an upsell opportunity?
It's one of those things is these protection programs, and again, it goes back on the user experience, right? It starts with trust of the brand. If I know that my favorite brand is endorsing this product, right, that might give me the confidence to buy. But beyond that, where I think consumers and merchants alike have to understand is going back to the in case stuff happens, right? The experience that they see through us and in a protection program and what we can deliver to resolve their issue is an extension of the merchant's brand.
Sure.
Right? So it's not just an add-on. It's not a third-party relationship. It's an extension of their CX. So at the time of peak, when that CX becomes even more crucial and could lead to churn of customers, from a particular merchant, that's where these programs have to be really put in spotlight to understand that because you are a dedicated customer of ours, you also have the additional benefit of having that peace of mind.
Yeah, that peace of mind is huge, right?
Yeah.
Especially as we're getting close to your loved ones, the people in your life that you're getting these gifts for, as we're talking about peak here, making sure that if something happens, then I'm going to be taken care of.
Yeah, and going back to our conversation about understanding the inherent risk, right? More packages flow through the network, there's a greater chance for loss and damage, and close to 70% of consumers experience loss, damage, or theft through the peak season.
Sure. So, as you're getting closer to the holiday season, is there ever a specific time that you decide to add protection to shipments, or have you chosen that in the past? What were the reasons behind it?
Yeah, for me, I definitely elect insurance on my products, especially if it's a merchant who's leveraging our programs. Bit of a homer there.
Sure.
But that being said, I typically do it with products that are higher in value, or there's uncertainty for me in some aspect of the product, right? I've never bought it before.
Sure.
It's a gift that somebody may not like. It's going to a location, like I mentioned, we ship a lot of this stuff up to New Jersey,
Sure.
right outside of New York City. And for us, right, there's higher risk in shipping to those locations, right? So for me, if it's a really important gift, it's a high value gift. If there's uncertainty around the gift, I typically insure it.
Yeah. Now, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, with what we do, we get to learn from others.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to have it happen to me. Every phone call I get throughout the day is here was a problem
Exactly.
that occurred, right? So I get to learn from that scenario. But to your point, high risk, fragile items, especially as you're talking about the network being loaded throughout this time period, but also especially around the holidays, even before we get to Christmas, talking about like we're going on little weekend trips to go see people that we may not see during Christmas. If I'm going to be away and that delivery window is there, like I don't want that thing getting stolen off my porch and me not having something for that or not knowing what's going to happen.
100%.
Yeah. So we've talked about shipping insurance, giving your customers the ability to add that in the checkout cart, merchants having it themselves. Outside of just the loss and damage that can occur within network during peak season with just more packages, are there other reasons why it's so important during this time of year?
100%. And I think as we go year to year, even outside of peak season, we see a steady rise in porch piracy.
Sure.
And the unique thing that insurance provides you, as far as peace of mind goes, is porch piracy is really unique, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's kind of a gray area in that shipping journey, right? It's out of the hands of the consumer, it's out of the hands of the carrier, right? And it's out of the hands of the merchant, right? Mm-hmm. Who's responsible? And in a lot of cases, nobody really raises their hand.
The thief?
The thief.
Yeah.
So with that being said, shipping protection allows you to protect for that circumstance. And what we see is there's a 37% rise in porch piracy during the holidays, right? So how do you protect against that? Shipping insurance.
Love that. I know you also hit on earlier, like being able to track those delivery windows to make sure you're there, but that's not always offered by merchants.
Yeah, absolutely not. And especially where it's even more important and where you can leverage other services like shipping insurance or even ship to access point, mm-hmm. right, is in urban areas, right? People are away from their homes. In some cases, they're in apartment complexes, they're in condominiums, places where the porch piracy is easily hidden.
Yes.
Right? Not a lot of people are going to see it happen.
Yeah.
Right? But there's also some ambiguity to, did it get there?
Yeah.
Right? So how do you protect against that? Leaning on things like shipping insurance, ship to access points. And then that way, when your schedule does allow the opportunity for you to receive the goods, you have that peace of mind to be able to do that.
Make it simple.
Yep.
So basically, what you're telling me is when you see insurance in the cart, that makes you feel a lot more comfortable purchasing from that merchant, especially if you've never purchased from them before. So you're probably a little bit more likely, if you have to decide between an item between two websites, that you're going to go ahead with the website that gives you that option for the security, as opposed to somebody that you really don't know what they're all about.
Yeah, absolutely. If I have the confidence that I'm going to be taken care of through the journey, I'm absolutely more likely to buy.
I know you've already mentioned that it's important for you to know that the product is a quality product, but we'll keep going back to when you're purchasing from an e-commerce store for the first time. How can merchants reduce that cart anxiety that you have shopping with them for the first time to make sure that even before that shipment journey starts, that you feel like you're getting the value, you don't abandon that cart?
Yeah, so for me, it's about communication and transparency, right? And I think the expectations of the everyday buyer, but especially myself, has changed as technology has advanced.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a lot about the product and a lot about my comfort with the brand. But then once we get into that purchase journey, right, for what's important for me is understanding what's to come, right? And that could be everything from understanding delays, understanding time in transit, but even down to like understanding where the product's coming from.
Yeah.
Right. If they're clear that they import overseas, right, and go direct to the consumer from there, right, that's a telling sign for me for everything from product quality to time in transit. But even as these checkout experiences have changed over time with technology, understanding like real-time tracking, right, mm-hmm. that's a huge thing for us. And as we get into the holiday season, right, what gets crazy during the holidays? Everything, right? Yeah. So not just shipping. It's your schedules. You got holiday dinners and parades and school functions and all different things you need to do. Travel on top of that. If I know that my delivery is going to be within the hour, you know what I mean? That changes my whole game plan.
Sure.
Right? Especially if it's something that I know I need to be there to receive.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Even down to like wrapping.
Yeah.
Like knowing what day I'm going to do that. That's kind of important for me. Try to do that in one fell swoop. Which Nate Bergazzi will cover that. So would you say that real-time tracking has really just become table stakes for a lot of these merchants as we get to peak season? Like you have to have it or else your customers aren't going to have the same experiences they're going to be able to get from maybe one of your competitors?
Oh, 100%. If I know I can follow it along the journey, right, I feel that much more comfortable. Because it also empowers me as the buyer too, right? So for instance, years ago, you would get your tracking scans and then something would just fall off sometimes, right? But there was no real clear indication of where it fell off and why it fell off. But it also empowers the buyer to where if it's gotten to a particular location or it's even out for delivery but it hasn't come yet, gives you an opportunity to be informed to either take corrective action yourself, inquire for more information, et cetera. I think it puts you in much more of a comforting spot to purchase, but a confidence that you'll receive the goods.
And when we say like the real-time tracking, I think we've all seen this in the past where it says it's out for delivery today and somehow you look tomorrow and it's 3 steps back in the journey. But real-time tracking is going through real scans to be able to see exactly where it is and not just necessarily where our carrier thinks it should be based off of logic.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've seen an explosion of this, especially around investments around RFID and what even UPS is trying to do as a whole, right? Not even just from the peace of mind through the journey, but even from a risk management perspective, right? Gives us the opportunity to extend to our customers that, hey, if there is a delay, if something goes wrong, right, and it's in network, we can locate exactly where that fault happened and intervene and locate the package.
Yeah, I mean, I think coverage for your shipments is extremely important for a peace of mind. But I think we would all agree that we'd rather just get our shipment rather than have to file a claim on it and reorder.
100%.
Yeah. So we already hit on this a little bit earlier with it being the gifting season and opportunity to get the wrong item for someone in your family or a loved one. But why, outside of that, why is the returns experience so important during the holiday season?
Well, I think a lot, like we talked about with other topics, it's changed a lot, right? I think when returns really kind of became a staple in the market, it was about the ability to return.
Sure.
Right? I think it's largely become how frictionless is the return, right? And I think there's a lot of buying decisions now being made around how frictionless the return is. So I think when evaluating a merchant to buy through, or even just getting the confidence of what you're doing, especially on the holidays, a frictionless return is always going to be, at least in my opinion, right, the more optimal path, right? And really, if done well, right, makes the whole gift giving process a little bit easier, right?
Sure.
So for me, I know I'm going to take some chances on some gifts. I told you I'm the unique gift guy, right? But they're not all of them are going to hit. So to remove that awkward barrier of, all right, I'm going to give it to you, but you're going to have to regift it, right? And you're going to be left with nothing, right? Gives me some power to be like, hey, you like this, but this would be better. I can return that, get what I want to get, and avoid the ultimate regift.
Yeah, it was like when you got me that piranha a couple years ago.
Hey, I thought it was going to be a big hit.
Yeah. You already spoke about frictionless returns, or at least trying to pull down some of that friction for your end customers. What are some strategies that merchants could use during the holiday season for that return strategy that would make it more frictionless?
I think a couple things you could do to maximize it, right, is make the experience unique to your brand, right? It's like everybody has a return option, right? See a lot of merchants offering returnless refunds, right? If it's a lower value product, right, it might actually cost you more to restock that, right? Restock it, reship it, the whole thing, right? And by removing that barrier, it makes the speed of resolution so much faster for the consumer, right? Because they don't have to take the extra step of like applying a label, taking it to a drop-off location, right? It takes that barrier out of it, and then it gives them the opportunity to use that product that they're holding on to for something else. Maybe they donate it, right? It's the holidays, great time to donate. But other unique things that you can do that I think are equally important is something simple as providing a QR code, right, for a return, right? We're largely digital and mobile these days, right? People want to operate off their phone. What can they do with their phone? Scan a QR code, take it to a drop-off location, drop it off. And that makes the experience unique, right? It makes it unique to the brand, right? So going back to kind of building that trust, building that comfort level, trying to build a repeat buyer. These are just unique touches you can do that make it more frictionless for your consumer.
No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think even as much as asking somebody to have to print out their own label, and we don't all have printers at our house. Obviously, I would never use UPS's printer for a personal item. Shout out HR. But you're making it as easy as possible in those situations that it wasn't necessarily the consumer's fault that this happened. Making sure that our merchants are taking some steps towards making that as easy as possible.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you can empower the consumer and not make them feel powerless, you're gonna have a repeat buyer.
Love it. So we've talked about a ton today. Answered a lot of questions. And we're big on clips. We want to make sure that this is consumable for all of our audience. Can you do us a favor and just summarize a little bit what you want merchants and consumers to really take out of our peak season conversation today?
Yeah, no, absolutely. First and foremost, we talked about this, communication, right?
Yeah.
The more you can communicate with your consumers and let them understand what's to expect and what's different about your brand, the more successful you're going to be. Right?
And that's on the front end and the back end.
100%. It's managing expectations. It's reaffirming the confidence in your brand. But as a merchant, right, digest as much of the information that the carriers are willing to provide about peak season to be able to craft your customer experience through the holidays, right? So along with communication, really framing up your operating plan around what those expectations are,
Sure.
right? So you can clearly communicate, you can clearly deliver on that. And beyond that, I think make it unique, right? Make it unique. And that's everything from your user experience, on your website, down to what options you have available. We talked about it. Adding a protection program, shipping insurance is a huge value add. It adds to the confidence. But we even talked about like the return solutions, right? Creating a unique experience from end to end for your consumers is going to help you in the long term, right? And it's going to instill that confidence. So I'd say beyond communication and making it unique, I guess an extension to making it unique in your customer experience is be highly participative, right? So, really ramp up those touch points with your consumers,
Sure.
right? And that could be everything from the initial experience to follow-up emails, to tracking information, or even, hey, they call and they have questions about their order, right? Really make sure that you and your staff are prepared to set the expectation, right? But bring home that brand value through that period, because this is the higher stress time, right? It's a higher stress time. People want that confidence, and that's the way to really come out on top.
I love it. I mean, through all the options that we discussed today, sounds like there's unique ways to make a customizable experience for your end consumer that's going to mimic as best we can that customer checkout counter that we kind of miss these days.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure, contrary to popular belief, to have you back on the show.
Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate you joining my show.
Once again, we'll have some contract talks, or we'll bring the lawyers in on this one, but this is not your show.
Oh, I think this being the last episode of the season is a natural segue.
You weren't supposed to announce that. I'm supposed to announce that.
Well, it's the last episode of the season, and it's a perfect segue into the new show that'll be coming.
We're going to cut this, right? And thank you all for being with us through the first season of the Logistics Lowdown as we announce our season finale. We can't wait to get back with you in 2026.